Alright, just a self-indulgent complaining video. Oh. Yeah, maybe that's what they all are. Uh, anyway, okay. Yeah, I'm just a little sick of humans, so I just want to complain a little. So I don't really, this job is just feeling so... I mean, it's not like it's overwhelming, it's just so, oh, this is, people are just impossible. So, yeah, basic theme is this: people just can never get the truth right. I mean, they refuse. They're impervious to reason. Yet they can gain skills and do things quite creatively. Like, they can know the rules about how to assemble something in the proper order, and how much glue to apply, and what not to do so you don't cut your fingers, and they can learn all kinds of things, about reality and about how it works. But when it comes to anything that really matters, no, just no, it doesn't happen. And I'm just sitting here on this pile of I know it all, and it just seems everything seems so obvious. Even the physics thing. I mean, the more I think about it, it's just, how can I not convince people that I got so much, I mean, it's a better answer than space is bent. I mean, they fall for something that's just, that photons don't know where they are. But they always end up someplace very reliably and predictably. But they don't know where they are. Come on. Well, I was thinking of the Earth's rotation, and I was thinking that this is how simple understanding diffraction is. So just like this little physics. So if I made the Earth and I made it had a front end, it had a pointy thing, and it was like an arrow just sticking out of it, where it was actually moving. Okay, the actual direction it was heading at each millisecond. Because it kind of wants to go in a straight line, and gravity keeps bending it. So without the gravity part, if I just let go of gravity, at every moment it has a little arrow going not round but straight. And so you can sort of understand that, say if I put something if something with a direction hit the Earth from behind, and then the Earth traveled, it's going to travel the way gravity is going to bend it. And so then if it releases that thing, it's going to release it at a different angle, because it's not traveling straight, you see. See, if something hits it from behind, like a little car, it would move straight, and then it would, hit another car and move that one straight, if you saw it as a row of cars. But you can sort of understand that if it's being pushed by gravity, well, then it's going to be moving a little bit different angle, a little tiny change in its angle of direction. So then when it gets hit, it's at one angle, and then when it releases the new car, it's at a different angle. See, simple explanation. So much better than space is bent and photons don't know where they are. But you say that to somebody, who has some kind of knowledge of physics, and they just go, "But quantum mechanics is the most proven theory in the history of mankind. It's so proven that this non-existent doesn't exist nowhere space. We've proven it." And you're just, what do you mean you've proven the nothing? But the dark matter, the invisible matter that's invisible, but there's all kinds of things because it's just, even though it's invisible. Okay. So it's kind of like the God thing, right? Because it's the same fucking subject, really, right? The same kind of phenomenon. You sit there and say, look, here's evolution, We have less difference between us and chimpanzees in our little squiggly genetic thing than chimpanzees and gorillas. Less difference between us and a chimpanzee than there is difference between a chimpanzee and a gorilla. Why would your God do that? That seems like a fucktarded thing for him to do. And not to even reference the simians somewhere in the Bible. Somewhere to say something like, yes, I know that's going to seem a little confusing that I made an organism that seems kind of like us, except it's just dumb. Yeah, I wasn't playing a trick on you. Yeah, they're just dumb animals, so yeah, just treat them like the pigs. Eat them. Oh, fuck. So, yeah, so anyway, so yeah, this is all just eating at my brain just because of the stupid fake Sagan. I mean, stupid fake Sagan shows up, and then he gets me accidentally listening to Brett Keane, which is really irritating, and Jesus fucking freak. And you're just, I just forgot that there were people this stupid on Earth, and you're saying this is how dumb all of these yapping Arabs are, and all these fucking people, these fucking Mohammed idiots, and they're fucking, going to their Mecca, and, kissing the wall of disease and bacteria. And you're just, ew. You're saying, why are people doing this shit? And then you got these other assholes who are just got their brains so full of bullshit philosophies, and Buddhism and thisism and that, and they're just blah 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 blah, and they eviscerate all meaning. They just turn everything into Heisenberg evaporation space, and they just start making up concepts of spirituality spelled with like a W. yeah, spirituality or something. Spewiology. I don't, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just these idiotic, and they'll talk about love or something, and you're, what are you talking about? But I'm just sitting here, and it's like I said, this week it was just it's just so like obnoxiously obvious. These people are all fucking crazy. Even the ones that could seem on the surface sane, they voted for Trump or something, and you're just, what? How did you add that up? How did you mechanically make that make sense? These people who believe in like abortion rights and all kinds of poor people are being exploited and all that kind of stuff, and they vote for the most egomaniacal billionaire on the face of the earth and think he's going to help you out. He's going to save the working class. Amazing. It's amazing. So anyway, that's what I'm just whining because I'm like, I mean, I say it as a joke that, I hate this planet, but it's just nothing. It's just so, it seems like sometimes it's just hard to get motivated because it just seems like it's such an immovable force. I mean, the stupidity is so stupid that it is like, yeah, I might as well try to explain physics to a duck. I'm just not just going to, I can harass the duck and I can irritate the duck, but, I can give it some bread or do something so I'm not a complete pain in the ass, but the duck's not going to learn physics. It's just going to say, swim, 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 swim. I swim. When you see me swim, I swim. Yeah, swim really good. I just use my feet. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I don't even have to use my arms at all. Oh yeah, well they're not really arms, are they? Yeah. Yeah, kind of a mutation or something. I don't really understand the whole evolution of it and everything, but yes, they were arms at one time, and somehow they turned into these flappy things. So, but same difference, maybe. I can't drink like out of a glass or anything, but they do bend a little bit. I could hug other ducks. I should do videos as a duck. Maybe if I was a talking duck, I could communicate with humans. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It sounds like a Frankenstein experiment or something. So maybe not. I won't go there. But yeah, that might be what it takes, I guess. Oh, Barney the dinosaur! I'm going to explain to you how not to just be a complete asshole, because somehow you people need that kind of instruction. Like, you just shouldn't, kick the kid next door and steal his stuff. Apparently I have to teach you that kind of shit with my little arms. Anyway, so, Yeah, so, I mean, there's just so many. I mean, you're just saying, how could people, okay, the whole religion thing, I mean, I guess if they all said, I saw the God orb, okay, then I could say, okay, they had a delusionary experience, and, now it's my job to explain medically what that is made out of so they can understand that, come on, it's just chemicals in your brain, fucked you up, wacky for a little while, and you saw some crazy shit. Didn't really happen. It's like a dream, but it happened in what you think is reality, but it didn't really happen in the reality. It's just your brain misinterpreting reality, you see. So they're not going to explain it. But they don't do that. They're just believing a story. It's a book, a story. The 2,000-year-old silly story of silly. And they're buying every word. They're arguing with each other about every sentence, and they're extracting the meaning out of it. Well, I don't think you have a soul that goes to hell. I think you have a soul that gets destroyed by God, or he wipes his ass with the soul, and then he throws it in a garbage can, which is kind of disgusting, and it just sits there and stinks for a few million years, and then slowly deteriorates because the microbes eat it. Or some kind of crap like that. Why are they arguing about this nonsense? It's a leprechaun theory. They're all just, they're fucking leprechaun stories. Why are they clinging to stories, really old, stupid stories that don't have one single, like each one of these books doesn't have one really good prediction in it. I mean, really good one. I mean, they predict things like, human beings in the future will screw each other over. Oh yeah, we didn't see that coming. Or some kind of, but nothing really good like they could have a little secret phrase in there that would imply something like, if one studies the water through the bubble, one will see the the monsters of disease or something. Just some way to imply, like, in the future you'll have a microscope and you'll see the little screwies that are screwing with you, physically. That isn't demons after all. Yeah, like the demons will be found, in the light reflected by the bubble or something. Could say something like that, and implying a future thing that would happen, and we could go back and look and say, there, it predicted it. Just something like that. It says something. I mean, the fact that God wouldn't overtly just tell us something in the Ten Commandments, or even the older religion, they were fighting, the Jesus freak and fathead, fuckface, barf, barf, and they were arguing about this Old Testament food prohibitions, and it's just so obvious what the Jews were kind of, they were sort of the modern human, they were trying hard to be modern and let's have a society, and they did the whole clean your penis thing, and they were just cleaning everything. So they were sort of neat freaks, the Jews, it started off that way anyway. And clearly what they were doing is saying, hey, if you don't want to get sick, don't do this stupid stuff, okay? You don't eat the shellfish, because guess what? All of our poo-poo is going in the shallow water where you're getting that shellfish shit, and it's full of poo-poo. So you don't want to eat that crap. Alright, don't eat the bloody steak, obviously, because, yes, it's full of worms and shit, and that's not good for you. And certainly the pig, yes, you just stay away from it, because you can never cook it right. Nobody ever cooks it enough, so if you're not going to cook it enough, don't eat it. And these are just prohibitions against the disease. And maybe it's even more important with the pigs, is they realize the pigs actually gave us diseases. The pigs have genetically, they're pretty close, and they end up getting a bunch of flus and viruses, and they give them to people. So even without eating them, they end up making you sick just by having them in your yard. And they were starting to figure this shit out. And so they just made it part of the social religious code. It's quite obvious that God didn't say this shit. Human beings figured this stuff out. And they can't even figure out that that's what it is. It's not something God did. God wasn't worried about this shit. God can't even... I mean, I don't even want to go through the list of all the things God can't do. But I mean, I could, you can sit here and make video after video, just explain all the fucking logical nonsense of the Bible. I mean, the whole idea that there was this confrontation between Judas and Jesus, right? And that Judas actually saw Jesus raise the dead. He saw him do it. He saw him heal lepers, supposedly. Walk on fucking water, for fuck's sake. He saw him do all of this shit. And yet, he didn't have any confidence. He was worried about a bottle of oil. $40 worth of shit that Jesus was, fucking with. Stealing from the till, so to speak. He was worried about $40 that Jesus was stealing from the till. That doesn't make any sense. Peter would betray him after seeing him raise the dead? I mean, none of you get to see any of that. I mean, you're really telling me that you wouldn't be obedient to God once you found out, oh, fuck, I guess he is God. I mean, if I see somebody raise the dead, okay, fuck, all right, what do I have to do? To not go to hell. And this was the funny thing in the Brett Keane Jesus Freak story, was sort of like Jesus Freak really wants there to be a hell. Because he knows that nobody will be good if there's not a hell. He actually knows that the heaven is so lame. The promise of heaven is so lame because it's undescribed, and it sounds pretty much like you're going there as a man without your penis, which sounds like a pretty big fucking compromise. I mean, that's like going to the worst hotel in Europe. Let's go on vacation, but we're going to stay at the worst hotel in Europe. Yeah, having your penis cut off. I don't, that just doesn't sound like a very good way to. If we're going on vacation, and we're gonna castrate you first. How's that? No, I don't think so. I think I'll go to work. So yeah, Jesus Jesus Freak understands. Jesus, what do I call him? Jesus Creep understands that, yeah, this whole thing doesn't work unless your God can scare people into being nice, right? Because it's not a logical argument being presented, except for the do unto others as you have others do unto you, which is so fucking obvious. Why do they mess with anything else? Why don't they just burn all of the other crap? I mean, just recognize that the other things with eyeballs and a sad face are feeling things. And the fact that people can't do that in any kind of rational way. Like Brett Keane was talking about, the Old Testament, they even mistreated the animals, blah, 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 blah. And he just doesn't understand. That's exactly what he's doing. I mean, they sacrificed animals to a god. He's sacrificing them to his stupid appetite. When there's 9 million things besides grass to eat, right? I mean, you can just go down the list of all the foods you can eat that are vegetarian. I mean, it's just, there's a ton of food. And tasty, too. French fries. Just eat French fries. You could eat healthy French fries. I mean, just don't boil them in oil. And, yeah, you could eat them for the rest of your life, and you'll probably do perfectly fine, you dumb fuck. Ugh. It's just so irritating. That they're just... And they're just so glued to these silly stories. I mean, they're just silly. And Brett Keane is arguing that, I don't really believe in this, this, and this, and this, but I believe all these things happen. He believes the earth was flooded, and all the humans were killed, like 4,000 years ago. How can you believe that? So you believe all the races on earth developed in 4,000 years? How exactly did they spread? Why should you have any explanation? No, of course not. Just complete denials of evidence. I mean, the geological evidence. It's just so, this obnoxiousness towards, yes, some science is bullshit, but some of it is just so rock solid. It's just putrid. I have to sit there and argue why human beings were not created in the Garden of Eden. And then they weren't all killed. Everything on the earth wasn't flooded. I mean, it's just a stupid, fucking idiotic argument. And we know how mountains are formed. See, this is why they had stories like that. See, this is the part that's just so. And they won't do this. They won't do this simple logic and just say, okay, where did that story come from? Well, it came from the fact because people did climb mountains, and they found seashells on the mountain. You know, way up on top of the mountain, they found little seashells, fossils. And see, they couldn't imagine that this gigantic mountain at one time, you know, was flat and it pushed up into the air. They can't imagine that that could have happened. I mean, on the time scale, they can't think that way. So they see a Grand Canyon or something, and they can't think in terms of something happening over millions of years. Well, even though that was probably didn't take that long, just because it was the, you know, a bunch of water running out of the center of the country. But anyway, whatever, lake, you know, putrid, draining. But anyway, what was I getting to? Yeah, so you have all this evidence, you know, and you can understand why people drew these conclusions. You say, okay, I get it. Okay, I understand why you have a flood story, because you have things in the world that make you wonder. And I'm sure they wondered because they did find some bizarre bones in the ground. And they're like, what kind of animal was this? You know, I mean, it's got a bone, leg bone this big. They're saying, how, there's nothing that big. I have to make something giant. You know, they just didn't have choices about this kind of stuff. And maybe they heard stories of, you know, the mountain gorillas, you know, and, you know, they come up with Goliath. You know, I mean, this is just a tale of the maturation of the human race. And here they are taking it as a literal story, that this is the truth. The story, I mean, again, just the very idea, like I said, I mean, the contempt that most people have for the Middle East is a source of anything but smells in the first place, and then they say their Holy One was created there. I mean, it's just almost hilarious that, you know, these these bigots would allow, you know, that it's not an American. Well, I see that's what the Mormons did, right? I guess the Mormons were like, we can't stand having this fucking Middle Eastern religion, so they had to Americanize it, you know, so they had to have an American prophet, you know, so they could fix the poor origins of their good religion. You know, but I mean, it's just the whole idea of these are stories, for fuck's sake, and that's all. Just stories. There's no reason to believe any of this. And then if you believed in a God, wouldn't you believe that he would have the minimal power to make sure the story was written well? I mean, that would just be the minimum. They would have a Bible, a human guide that would say, that would be better than my videos. You know, that would be better than like Sam Harris, or better than, think of them, the most eloquent human spokesman, Carl Sagan. That God would be able to convey understanding better than Carl Sagan. You know, with empathy and get right to you. Get right to you. Hit you right in the nuts, so to speak, or right in the heart, or right whatever the important organ to you is. Hit you in the brain with this idea of his, this expression of what he intends for his creation, at minimum. That this is all a good plan. Trust me, I really did think about it. I thought about it forever. And don't worry, this is an excellent plan. You know, and I'm going to assure you, give me a little tiny bit of trust. And like I said, none of the disciples had to have it. None of the holy people of the Bible had to have any of this thing called faith. They had demons and angels flying around all over the place. All kinds of shit happening to make it quite obvious that God was God. We don't have any of that. And we don't even have a nice, coherent statement from our Lord and Savior. Nothing powerful. And if you're going to say the little comments by Jesus, what, the poor will be with you always? I am here but a short while. Maybe Jesus Freak could explain exactly how I am here for a short while means something. Like, which one of us exactly is here for something other than a short while? I mean, we're either going to hell or we're going to heaven, right? We're not staying here, right? We're going to die, right? How exactly is that a rational statement from the Savior or a God to say something silly like that? Like that should mean the God doesn't understand how that can't possibly mean anything to me because I know I'm going to die. I'm going to be here for a short while. How can I be in the short while competition? How can he say he's more short-whiled than I am? When I know there's kids dying. When I know 3 out of 4 of my kids died. They didn't get they got a very short while. Okay, but then you go to the good stuff like the Sermon on the Mount or something. How do you make sense out of even that? Do the butterflies sow, nor do they reap? So what's he advocating with that? What's he basically saying? You know, that all this industry is an abomination in a sense to where what we really should just be doing, which is living off the land. How else do you interpret it? You know, the birds don't have microwave ovens, yet God provides. They don't worry about their clothes, right? The lily in the field is something. It doesn't need no ornaments. You know, it doesn't need clothes. So he was basically saying, don't worry about it if you're just wearing a freaking, you know, if you're wearing nothing. It's supposed to not matter, I suppose. But I suppose even then it was sort of a, it could get you in trouble walking around naked, I would just imagine. I'm just imagining. Could get me in trouble. Yes, it really could. Lots of inappropriate gestures that my body could be making. But anyway, so what is all that crap? What exactly is this? Is the coherent? This is the Carl Sagan-esque? This is telling you exactly what it means to be a human being? Does it make any sense? No. I should just eat the leprosy and say, wow, okay, no problem, because somehow this is all going to make sense in the end. It does, you know, I'm just sorry. I don't think there's anything in that whole Bible to make it make any sense. There's just no story of the victory dance. I mean, the wacky Muslims do at least appeal to their male clients, you know, by promising them all kinds of, you know, underage nookie. But you know, what else what's the Christian paradise? You know, I mean, that is I guess that's probably why Muslims are winning, you know, in a sense, in the taking over of the world contest, because at least they're selling an idea of a heaven that at least appeals to males. You know, I don't know what women get out of it. I don't know exactly what their glory is. You know, what they're promised. I guess lots of babies to fondle. I just. But you're saying, how do people fall for this shit? Silly goddamn stories. Just incredibly silly stories. Here we landed on the moon. You know, you got your freaking smartphone, and they're smarter than people. You got all of this stuff. You got this internet. Well, see, that's just sprawled with liars and cheaters, which I guess is the nature of human beings. I mean, it's a sad commentary, just because you would say that, okay, you could say that, okay, maybe it's a minority of people who are this obnoxious spammers and obnoxious trolls and obnoxious crooks. But if that were true, then the majority of people would stop them. And it's clear they have just absolutely no interest in doing that. They just don't want to ever pass a law or enforce a law about lying and cheating and stealing. Because it seems that they all have some ambition in someday in the future to be a crook. Or are presently crooking. But we certainly could preserve that little tiny bit of civilization to at least say, yeah, we're not going to allow you to, you know, set up your booby traps in the middle of the highway and, you know, and knock cars off the road and steal their shit. And it's pretty much what the super highway is this, you know, fucking obstacle course, you know, where you got to waste more time turning, you know, avoiding all the crap, you know, to ever get where you're trying to go. Nothing rational, nothing coherent, everything geared to the industry of advertisements and selling, and nothing geared to intelligence and information and truth. The truth just doesn't fucking matter. It's pitiful and sad and tragic. And I sit here and I say, clearly people they just don't want to hear this complaint, most of them. So there's a little minority of us, huddled in the in a little our little refuse, our little island knitted together in the cesspool, trying to find reason why are they doing this? Why are they eating their own shit? Why? Well, what happened? What zombied the human race? How could an animal maturate into something so fucking retarded? All these people, they're just so irritated because they really think if Tyrannosauruses got intelligence first, that they wouldn't have become civilized, that they wouldn't recognize their bigotries and their brutalities and the nastiness of their structure and their form, and find it lamentable, and maybe have little mittens on their claws and do little things to make themselves less horrific. Little smiley face gear they could wear or something. Just take the edge off a little bit of what nature's done to them. And here, human beings don't even have that. I mean, we were never carnivores. We were never torturers of other living things by nature. And yet, just a small period of time since the development of fire, we've gained a stupid little habit, and people have to rationalize it. A stupid little habit. So easily, we can so easily be liberated from, and they cling to it desperately, because the stomach says it's important. It's just so. So yeah, I'm just having a low period, but I'll endeavor to persevere, and keep thinking of how I can maybe have make my perfect video, be perfectly articulate in terms of trying to get to human beings and have them understand that I'm not trying to insult them. I'm not trying to be better than them. I'm not trying to belittle them for no reason. I'm doing this because my guts are upset. My brain is so offended that it's twisting my guts to pieces because of how disgusting a world you're creating. How grotesque this slop is. And you're just so degrading and insulting everything, especially our intelligence. You're just such a profound insult to the concept of intelligence. Can't you just admit you're too stupid? Apparently, I mean, you religious folk, that maybe you've got to do a little bit of reading and to recognize just how profoundly wrong you are, how fooled you have been, how duped you have been by a silly little gang mentality. Let's go turn over cars and set things on fire for Jesus. I mean, it's just nonsense. You're doing shit for no good fucking reason. You're spinning in circles in a really negative way. You're just poison to the future. You just keep planting irradiated seeds. And it's not going to stop until you stop it. You have to do it. Your generation has to do it. You have to stop doing it. If you keep planting those seeds, they're just going to keep infecting the world with stupidity. I mean, fuck. But yeah, you're just, like I said, I don't know what to say. I mean, I guess the fake Sagan thing just kept eating at me, because you're just saying, there's just, how could, he's not an imbecile. I mean, I'd like, I mean, there's certain obvious character traits that just say imbecile. Like, he just does seem to idle. He just seems like he wants to be Joe NASCAR or something. Wear his baseball cap and, I just, he has that mentality in him. But I'm just saying he's also, He's not ignorant. Now, maybe he's, like I say, he's no scientist, but I mean, he knows how to acquire knowledge, and it seems like he did okay when Oceanovani's hip thing came up. It seems he did pretty good in doing some research and figuring out what these hip things are made out of and why they don't last and why they have to be replaced every 15 years. And he did a lot of, figured all this shit out. So how can he not figure this out? How can he not figure out that this 2,000-year-old piece of shit story has absolutely nothing to do with reality? It's bad science. It's old, archaic, silly astrology, for fuck's sake. Why are you looking for astrology? Why are you looking for patterns, in the silliest places? It's like, looking at the vomit in the toilet bowl and saying, what does it say to me? It's not going to say anything to you. It's not the source of the truth. It's not where you look, fuckhead. It's just, you're just saying, how can people go so, how can it be so fucking stupid? In the other extreme of the nihilists, these assholes who sit there and look at this goddamn world, sitting here experiencing it and see how can you avoid not understanding how profoundly obnoxious existence can be? I mean, you could just, even if you just had a week of hard depression, that should be enough to, shake you up, give you some kind of whoop. But I mean, just even some really bad sicknesses sometimes will do it. I mean, you know what it's like. How can you sit there and say that's nothing? Doesn't mean anything. It could happen a gazillion times. It just didn't mean a thing. And then do that to all these other creatures, all these other animals on this earth that clearly have active, conscious minds. And all they are is stupid. That's all. They're just ignorant. And you sit there and find excuses to mistreat them. And you're just, what the fuck? What the fuck? It's like tripping blind people. How could you ever find an excuse to do that? It's blind. I can trip it. It's not a problem. It's broken. I can break it some more. It's not as good as me. What is this shit? Alright, anyway, I don't want to go on that subject. I mean, there's just, it's just another religion, it's just another cop-out, and it's another game being played to just find a justification so people don't have to look at the truth, and that's all it is, because the truth is obligatory and unflattering, and they just can't take it, because I guess they are invested in the human race, because they can't really be invested in themselves, so they're invested in the team, that kind of thing. They're kind of the runty little cruddy player, and their whole identity is based on the team, and so they have to glorify team human, because that's the only way they can find any way to find any. They have to get their ego points vicariously. They have to watch the porn somehow. They have to watch somebody else having a good time to understand it, or something like that. So they have to see somebody else doing it right, because they know they never can or never will. I don't know. And right just becomes, be as grotesque a taker as possible. I guess that's why Trump's president of the United States, right? Go watch somebody who just takes, is given a huge cheat, bigger guns than anybody else, longer swords, however the metaphor, just every cheat possible in the contest, and glorify him for his great victories when he didn't even win. Just kind of amazing. I don't know. Alright, so enough. Like, self-indulgent, I'll concede. This self-indulgent video. This isn't doing my serious work. But, it was just for my own, just try to get out of my own stall, out of my own frustration, because I'm just having a hard time finding the will to argue anything or do anything, and it's just all suffocating, and sometimes just, you might not feel like playing basketball, but right, if you just go outside and start bouncing the ball, Yeah, you say, oh yeah, well maybe I do want to gain. So maybe that's all I'm doing. I'm just wetting the what do they say that? There's a thing for that. I'm greasing or I'm oiling. It's something, and then that little bit makes you kind of okay, go. So yeah, I'm just trying to get the wheels rolling, and then I'll start feeling like hitting the gas pedal or something. It's just bullshit probably, but whatever. It's just where I was. I just didn't know what to do with my irritation, so I made a video about being irritated. But it's obviously it's about more than my irritation. Anyway, enough of a video. Till next time. I shall attempt to endeavor to persevere. Yeah. I suggest you do likewise.